The flash of cameras, the glare of fame, and one moment that changed everything. Once, that light crowned Britney Spears, now it exposed every tear she tried to hide. The night was heavy. Los Angeles hummed with its usual noise, neon motion, the whisper of secrets behind tinted glass, but in one quiet corner, the air felt different. As if something sacred was about to shatter. Britney's car rolled to a stop. The engine went silent, but her pulse didn't. Inside, she sat motionless, hands trembling against the steering wheel. The same hands that had held microphones, awards, babies, now they clutched nothing but air. Her eyes, tired and vacant, caught the reflection of a small salon across the street. The sign flickered in soft pink light, Esther's hair design. A place for reinvention, for women to walk out feeling new. She stepped out. The night air wrapped around her like a question she couldn't answer. Inside, the stylist was cleaning up, sweeping the floor, ready to call it a day. Then came the knock, soft, hesitant, yet desperate. When she opened the door, she froze. There stood Britney Spears. No entourage, no makeup team, no bodyguards. Just a woman, exhausted, unraveling. "I need my hair cut," Britney said quietly. The stylist blinked, confused. "I'm sorry, we're closing soon." "Maybe tomorrow?" Britney shook her head. "No. I need it gone. All of it." There was no defiance in her tone, only surrender. Something fragile behind her eyes. The stylist hesitated, trying to be polite, but her fear won. "I can't do that, Britney." For a moment, the silence between them was louder than the city outside. Britney's gaze fell to a counter nearby as silver electric clipper gleamed under the light. She reached for it slowly, as if drawn by gravity. "If no one will do it, I'll do it myself." Click. The buzz filled the room. A long, golden strand fell to the floor. Then another. Then another. And with every pass of the clippers, she seemed to shed not just hair, but history, the image, the expectation, the weight of being Britney Spears. Outside, flashes exploded against the window. The paparazzi had arrived, sensing blood in the water. Cameras clicked like insects. To them, it was another headline. To her, it was an unmasking. Inside, the mirror reflected a woman stripped bare of glamour, of control, of the world's illusions. Her voice cracked as she whispered to her own reflection, "Now they can't touch me." Across the city, Kevin Federline sat in his living room. The kids were asleep, little Sean and Jayden, unaware of the storm brewing around their names. Kevin stared at the muted television. The breaking news banner flashed silently, "Britney Spears shaves her head." He didn't move. Didn't blink. He just sat there, the glow of the TV flickering against his face, as though he were watching the ghost of the woman he once loved. In his mind, he heard echoes. The laughter they shared, the chaos that followed, the fights over love, custody, and control. He murmured to himself, "That's what I was dealing with." It wasn't cruelty in his voice, just exhaustion, the kind that comes when love has turned into survival. He glanced toward the hallway, where two small nightlights glowed outside the boys' rooms. "They wouldn't understand," he whispered. "They shouldn't have to." Outside, the world was devouring her story. Inside, Kevin felt the faint tremor of guilt, not because he caused it, but because he couldn't stop it. The morning after felt unreal, a haze of headlines, judgment, and noise. Every news anchor had the same photograph, Britney, bald-headed, eyes wide and hollow, standing under the blinding lights of 1,000 cameras. Kevin stared at the image printed on the front page of the Los Angeles Times. Her eyes seemed to stare back at him, defiant, wounded, and lost all at once. He remembered when those same eyes used to sparkle under the stage lights, when her laughter filled every corner of their home. Back then, fame had been a blessing, a shimmering, golden river that carried them toward a dream. Until it turned into a flood. He closed the newspaper, folded it neatly, and set it aside. His phone buzzed, reporters, lawyers, producers, all demanding statements. He ignored them all. He walked down the hallway toward the boys' room. Sean and Jayden were building towers out of toy blocks, their tiny voices echoing the simplicity of a world that still made sense. Kevin smiled faintly, sitting beside them. "Daddy, where's Mommy?" Sean asked suddenly. Kevin froze. The words hit harder than he expected. He looked down, searching for something honest yet safe to say. "Mommy's resting, buddy. She's taking some time to feel better." Jayden tilted his head, frowning. "Did she get hurt?" Kevin hesitated again. How could he explain that some wounds don't bleed, they just echo inside? He reached out, pulling both boys into a hug. "No, sweetheart. She just needs a little space. Sometimes grown-ups do." Later that day, he drove through the city in silence. Billboards of Britney still towered above the streets, perfume ads, album covers, magazine spreads. She was everywhere, even in her absence. At a red light, Kevin noticed a crowd gathered outside a newsstand. People were laughing, pointing at the tabloid covers, the bald head, the umbrella, the meltdown. He gripped the steering wheel tightly. Fame was supposed to be a dream, not a weapon. But he'd seen it cut her open, slice by slice. He remembered the night she showed up outside his gate. It had been late, the sky bruised with rain. She was crying, begging to see the kids. He didn't open the gate, not because he didn't care, but because he was terrified. She wasn't herself anymore. Her words tumbled out in fragments, her thoughts scattered. The woman he'd loved, the girl with the southern laugh and barefoot heart, was trapped inside a storm she couldn't escape. He stood at the window, watching her through the rain. "Please, Kev." She had screamed. "They're my babies." He wanted to open the door, to hold her, to say it would all be okay. But then he saw the cameras flashing from across the street, vultures circling in their cars. He couldn't let the boys see their mother like that, wild, broken, and hunted. So he stayed inside. And when she finally drove away, the echo of her sobs lingered in the night like a ghost. The next day, the world feasted on her pain. Television hosts laughed. Late-night comedians made jokes. Fans debated her sanity online. But Kevin knew better. He'd seen the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the pressure. He'd watched her try to be everything, the perfect mother, the perfect pop star, the perfect symbol. No one could survive that. He thought about the rehab visits, the failed therapy sessions, the exhaustion written across her face. She'd been asking for help in every way she could, but in Hollywood, help only comes when it's too late. That night, after putting the kids to bed, he sat outside on the porch with a cigarette and his thoughts. The city lights blinked in the distance, cold and beautiful. He remembered the first time they met backstage, years ago, when she was still the golden girl of American pop. She had laughed at his jokes, danced barefoot in the green room, and called him real. And maybe that's why she loved him, because he wasn't part of the industry, not really. He was just a guy from Fresno who liked to dance and didn't mind being in her shadow. But when her world began to crumble, his couldn't hold it up. He was young, confused, overwhelmed. He didn't have the tools to save her, and maybe, he thought bitterly, she didn't want to be saved. The phone rang again. It was his lawyer. The custody case was moving forward. Kevin closed his eyes, feeling the weight of every decision crushing his chest. He didn't want to take her kids away. But he also couldn't let them grow up in chaos. In the silence that followed, he whispered to himself, "I didn't want any of this." He thought of Britney sitting somewhere alone, her shaved head glowing under harsh lights, the world watching her unravel. Somewhere deep down, Kevin still loved her. Not the superstar. Not the scandal. But the girl who used to fall asleep with her head on his shoulder, whispering about wanting a normal life. He wanted to believe that one day, she'd find peace. That she'd laugh again. That their boys would know the real her, not the tabloid version, not the broken image on TV. But that night, as he turned off the lights and checked on the children one last time, he couldn't shake the image of her reflection, staring back from that mirror, hairless as fearless, and free in a way that terrified everyone. Years had passed, but some nights still returned to him like echoes. The flash of the cameras. The hum of that electric clipper. The headlines that screamed instead of asked. Kevin would sit by his window, the California sky spread above him, and wonder how two people who once danced in perfect rhythm could have ended up in such different worlds. He'd built a quieter life now, the kind without red carpets or bodyguards. His mornings were ordinary, making breakfast, driving the boys to practice, checking their homework. The noise of fame had faded into a distant hum, and for the first time in years, he could breathe without the weight of a story chasing him. But every now and then, the past found him a flashback, a song on the radio, a photograph someone posted online. And for a moment, he'd see her again, not the performer, not the tabloid figure, but her. The girl from Louisiana with a laugh that filled rooms and a heart too big for the world that claimed her. He sometimes wondered if she ever thought of those early days, the quiet ones, before the stages, before the cameras. The nights when they'd lie awake in the dark, whispering about dreams that now seemed so far away. He missed that version of her, and maybe, he missed the version of himself that existed beside her. In his memoir, Kevin wrote, "People think I knew Britney Spears, the icon. But I knew the human being, the one who got scared at night, who loved her babies more than anything, who wanted peace but never found a place quiet enough to hold it." That line became the most quoted part of the book. People called it poetic. But for Kevin, it was just the truth. He hadn't written the book to make her look good or bad. He'd written it because memory has a way of haunting you if you don't give it somewhere to live. One afternoon, months after the book's release, he got a call. It wasn't from her, he knew it wouldn't be, but from someone close. She read it, the voice said softly. Kevin froze. And there was a pause on the line. She cried. But, she said it was honest. He didn't say anything. His throat tightened. After a moment, he whispered, "That's enough." Because honesty had always been the one thing missing in their story, between the press, the rumors, the lawyers. Maybe, finally, they'd found a piece of it again. Years later, their sons were grown. Sean had her eyes, Jayden had her stubborn grin. Sometimes, when Kevin watched them together older, wiser, carrying the calm that neither parent had known, he felt something like peace. They talked about their mother often, but without pain. They knew the stories, but they also knew the woman. The one who sang to them, who loved too fiercely, who fought too hard. And Kevin realized then that maybe redemption doesn't come in apologies or public statements. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the laughter of the next generation, in the forgiveness you never asked for but somehow receive. One night, years later, he found himself back in Los Angeles for a charity event. He hadn't planned on seeing her, didn't even know she'd be there, but fate, in its strange way, always circles back. Across the room, under the warm glow of chandeliers, he saw her. Britney. Older now. Calmer. Stronger. For a moment, the noise of the crowd vanished. She caught his gaze. No smile, no words, just recognition. Two people bound by history, by love, by everything that once broke them. She gave a small nod. He returned it. And just like that, the past was acknowledged, not forgiven, not forgotten, but accepted. That tiny moment said everything years of headlines never could. When he drove home that night, the city lights blurred past the window like old memories fading into distance. He thought of their first dance, their first kiss, the first time she whispered, "Don't ever let me go." He had. But maybe that was the only way either of them could survive. He rolled down the window. The cool night air hit his face. Somewhere far off, a song played on the radio, one of hers. He didn't change the station. He let it play, every note, every word, until the final chorus drifted into silence. Kevin smiled faintly, whispering into the dark. Maybe we were never meant to last. Maybe we were just meant to matter. He turned onto the quiet road home, headlights cutting through the night, carrying the weight of what was, and the peace of what finally let go. Because in the end, there were no villains, no heroes. Just two human beings who loved, fell apart, and somehow kept moving forward. And that, more than anything, was their real story.